Hi there, my name's Graham and welcome back to another video. Today I'd like to discuss a book that I read in 2018 and it was my favourite book of that year. It is The Secret Life and Curious Death of Miss Jean Milne by Andrew Nicoll. This book discusses a cold case, a murder case from 1912 that's still unsolved to this day. It's written in a fictional way, but the author has used original case studies, police statements, witness statements, crime scene analysis, all that kind of thing. And the author has come to a conclusion that when you read it, you think, well, has this man just solved a 106-year-old cold case? So the story is about the death of a woman called Miss Jean Milne. She was a very wealthy spinster. She lived in the outskirts of Dundee in a small town, then at least, called Broughty Ferry. Broughty Ferry is now part of Dundee, but back in those days it was very... The people who lived in Broughty Ferry were very... very precious over the fact that they were separate. They were their own separate place. So yes, Miss Jean Milne was bludgeoned to death in her home in 1912. In October, she was found in November, so she'd lain for about 2 or 3 weeks. She'd been bludgeoned to death with a fire poker. She'd been hit so hard with the poker that it had snapped, and there was hair and chunks of flesh on this poker. She was also stabbed with a 2-tine meat fork, and was left for dead. The chances are that she probably didn't die straight away when she was attacked. I won't give away the end of the book because that's really spoilery. It's got such a twist ending. It's the best book I read in 2018. It's the best book I've read for a long time, in fact. It's so well written. I believe that the author was a newspaper reporter, or is still a newspaper reporter. I'll read you the back of the book. A woman murdered, a crime unsolved, a mystery that has lasted a century. In the quiet seaside town of Broughty Ferry, all is not as it seems at Elm Grove, the mansion of wealthy spinster Miss Jean Milne. When her tortured and horrifically murdered body is discovered lying in the hallway, her feet bound and her skull crushed. A killer must be found, but nothing has been stolen. The doors and windows are all locked, and there are no obvious suspects. When Detective John Trench arrives to assist the local police, he finds a force determined to find someone, anyone, to take the blame. And sensational newspaper headlines have the whole country in a frenzy. But as the truth slowly begins to unravel, Trench discovers that the respectable Miss Milne has been leading a double life, and that her frequent trips away from home mask an altogether different story. Could this be the key to the mystery? Based on a true story, this is a shocking tale of class division, money, sex, lies, betrayal, and murder. With new evidence from police files, at last the curious death of Miss Jean Milne may finally have found a solution. And honestly, when you're reading this, you do think to yourself, oh my goodness, this author, Andrew Nicoll, has solved this case. I mean, he probably hasn't, but it's such a conclusion to come to. It's quite stunning, really, to read. I have no other words to describe it other than it is beautifully written. It flows so well, and it's so worth a read. Perfect piece of true crime in a fictionalized way. told using original police files. I highly recommend that everyone ever reads this book immediately. It's so good. It's published by, let me see, it's published by Black and White Publishing, and I suppose you would get it, well, I got this on, I think, Amazon. Waterstones, especially in Scotland, you would get this, but if you're in England or elsewhere, you may need to get this online if it's something that you'd like to read, and I highly suggest that you do read it, because it is fantastic. Thank you very much for listening to me ramble on. I will be back soon with another video. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.